Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we'll be taking a look at the AK400 from Deepcool, the little baby brother of the classic AK620. Keep watching to find out more. So on today's video we'll be taking a look at the AK400. This is a direct descendant from the AK620, which is both from Deepcool. This is a 6 heat pipe version, twin fan, TDP around about 260 watts. This is a single tower, single fan, 4 heat pipes, and also has a TDP of somewhere in the region of about 220 watts of thermal output. So in terms of direct comparison, this is really easy to do because they use the same testing methodologies. So if you're looking for super high-end processors, this is the one to go for. But for those of you that like a bargain and also like some actually pretty decent cooling and some very splendid looks, then this is actually a very good choice. As it stands, this is due to be released on the retail market here in the UK and in Europe round about the middle of April 2022, and with a street price of somewhere between $30 and $40. Now obviously this is the UK, and depending how the exchange rates work out, it's going to be really interesting to see what price these actually hit the retail market at. If you take it into comparison, this one at the moment in the UK is somewhere in the region of about £50. If this can come out somewhere around about the £30 to £35 mark, I think they're going to have a real winner on their hands. So what we're going to do today, we're going to go through, do a comparison towards the end of the video, actual thermals between the two, so you can get a good idea of which one's going to be suitable for you. We're going to go through, do an unboxing, take a look at the fans, take a look at the heatsink, see what it's all about, and also there will be a follow-up video to see how to actually install it. And to be honest with you, it's a very, very simple thing. They've actually simplified a lot of the parts, so there's actually a really simple way of fitting it. And best of all, it fits LGA 1700 straight out of the box, no additional fitting kits required. So if you are jumping on to Intel's 12th generation bandwagon, this is ready straight out of the box. So I should just say before we start this, I am actually reviewing this prior to the actual NDA release date. So again, pricing is not entirely sure. We've got our recommended retail prices, which have been said again, somewhere between the $30 and $40 mark. Again, how that's going to equate to the retail launch, I really don't know. I'm hoping this is going to be basically a replacement for the classic Gamax 400 from Deepcool also, which has been pretty much a go-to cooler for many, many people for a good number of years now, and has actually evolved through various RGB and addressable RGB iterations. But now we've got this, which is Deepcool's AK400, which is an extremely stylish piece of kit. For those RGB lovers out there, sadly you're out of luck, this is an RGB free zone. But having said that, even if you don't have RGB actually on the cooler, if you want a little bit of RGB, it does reflect nicely, and some shots from inside my own PC, which is actually laden with RGB, it does still fit in and look very premium. On the other hand, if you don't have any RGB, it's still going to give you that really nice stealthy look. Talking of stealthy, the package in itself is actually rather stealthy. There's not a great deal going on, just shows you a nice picture of the cooler on the front there, and on the back it goes through some of the specifications, which will give you a close-up of now. Essentially what we're going through here is 4 heat pipes, a total height of 155 millimeters. As with the AK620, there is actually a plastic top plate and a little grey cover. If you want to take that off to shave off a couple of millimeters, you may get it down to about 153, maybe 152. So if you are really tight on space, then certainly that is an option. But I think they've actually dialed this in right. 155mm for a 120mm tower cooler is perfect and gives an absolute huge wealth of compatibility with most modern ATX and micro ATX cases. Something we should also touch on is socket compatibility. So it's actually really simple as far as AMD is concerned. This is for AM4 sockets only as things stand. Obviously AM5 is in the kind of not so distant future, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But in terms of Intel sockets, this supports the 11.5X sockets, LGA 1200, and of course LGA 1700, Intel's new 12th gen socket, and potentially into 13th gen as well, where that also is yet to be decided. So again, if you are into Intel's 12th gen territories, this is going to fit straight out of the box. And talking about out of the box, let's take a look and see what we actually get. So first of all, in the top, we do have our accessories kit, which we'll take a closer look at shortly. There is a installation guide, which actually is very, very good. Very similar, in fact, to the AK620s, where it's all laid out very, very clearly. The only thing I would have liked to have seen possibly is a hint of colour, and I'll tell you why a little bit later on. Delving a little bit further into the box, we get the cooler itself, and there is actually a plastic cover on the bottom to protect the heat pipes, which is always really nice, and it comes with the fan actually included straight out of the box. So let's take a look at the fitting kit for the various options. So when it comes to Intel, there is a supplied backplate, nice metal backplate. So this is for 11.5X, LGA 1200 and LGA 1700. Adjustable in means of removing the cap off the end here and just moving these pieces in or out depending on which particular socket you have. To go with that, there are these black standoffs. Now there's a rounded one and a fluted one. The rounded one is for 11.5X and the fluted one is for LGA 1700. Also, there are 4 screws included as well. You can tell which ones are which if you do get them muddled up, because the fine thread is the only one that will fit with the Intel backplate. When it comes over to the AMD side of things, a little bit more simplified. You're using your standard AM4 backplate, which is included with your motherboard. You then use these orange coloured kind of fluted sections here, which are also orange, which should stand out a little bit, and also the 4 screws with the thicker thread. When it comes to the top plate is the same for both setups. So if you're using Intel or AM4, absolutely fine. So the AM4 mountings are these little notches on the top and bottom, and obviously the Intel wide are the kind of square settings as we're used to seeing. So again, no issues there at all. The cooler itself screws down onto these threaded sections here. So yeah, very, very straightforward. There will be 2 follow-up videos on this, one for Intel and one for AMD. So if you want to see how this fits in a more laid out and concise way, then don't forget to check out those videos. They'll be linked in the video description. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's take a look at the actual cooler itself. And as you can see, it is a very nice looking cooler. And if you like the look of the AK620, effectively this is, well, kind of almost identical in terms of its design aesthetic. Looking from the top section, got this nice top plate, and it just looks very, very plain, very muted, so it will fit in with pretty much most designs. You can, if you want to, like I said a little bit earlier, you can remove this plastic top plate, which just pulls off, giving you access to a couple of Torx T8 screws on the top there. Then you can remove that other plate as well, just to give you a few more millimeters of clearance should you wish to. I think really most people will probably end up leaving that actually installed. It does look very nice after all. The actual heatsink and stack, same as the AK620, so we've got this really nice kind of checkerboard effect which has been put into the heatsink. There doesn't seem to be any obvious reason why they've done that. The only reason I can see personally is, my thoughts is that it changes some of the turbulence of the fan. Whether that's true or not, I honestly don't know, and because I don't have obviously a flat version of this to test against, I don't know. But I would imagine that would change the wind turbulence as the fan is actually pushing air into it. Honestly, I don't know, but besides, I think it looks pretty cool anyway. On the bottom, we've got a slightly unusual design here actually for the heat pipe. So we've got 4 semi-exposed heat pipes on there, so you can see the copper base there. The rest of it's been coated in this nickel plating. Really nice sized heatsink at the bottom here as well, with a slight fluting on it as well to aid heat dissipation. Something slightly unusual, normally you'd find the heat pipes would be kind of closely stacked together. So they seem to have spaced them out a bit more. Whether or not that's to do with something with AM4's chiplet design, possibly, maybe, I'm not too sure. So concentrating 2 pipes in the middle and then a couple on the outside edges. Whether or not that would have any benefit, I don't know. It does appear to be doing quite well in the temperature test, which we'll check out a little bit later on. So yeah, slightly different design, but seems to work very, very well. It is a kind of semi-symmetrical design, so you can install it that way up or that way up. Doesn't make a great deal of difference. And they do actually include an extra set of fan clips as well, so if you want to go out and buy yourself another fan to do a push-pull configuration, then certainly you can do that if you want to. The fan itself, RPM ranges between 350 and 1850 RPM. In the kind of installation guide and on the box, it does say that it's somewhere a bit higher than that. I think they said 500 RPM, but actually testing on my Asus motherboard, the RPM range went down to 350 RPMs before the fan stopped altogether. So yeah, just wanted to be a little bit clearer on that. Removing the fan, super easy to do. Really nice heat clips here. They've actually changed the design slightly, I think, from the AK620, where the clips seem to be a little bit narrower in the bit where you actually pull. So now you can actually get your finger in there a little bit easier and they release nice and easily. Take that off, remove the fan from it. Nice fan as well. Again, almost identical to the one which is included with the AK620, although this is a slightly different version. This is the FC120P, which I think the other one was just FC120 or AK or FK120. I think it's FK120 if I remember rightly. Both fans are fluid dynamic bearing fans, and they both appear to have very similar properties. This one has a static pressure of somewhere just over 2.1 mm H2O, which is absolutely great static pressure for this kind of purpose, and even for radiators, that sort of thing. And in terms of noise levels, somewhere just below 30 dB, even under full load. Again, probably one of the quietest fans in my entire PC. Certainly actually quieter than the 140mm fans I've got in there, which are case fans, which is slightly unusual, but they do seem to have done a particularly good job on these fans. They do have the same as the AK620. We've got these nice solid rubber brackets in the corner. And another thing I really like about this is the fact that the actual spring clips stay in place. They're pretty solid in there, so even if you're trying to sort of wiggle this around in your PC, the clips just don't want to fall off, which really helps with installation. So that's about all I can say about the actual design and from the unboxing purposes. So best thing to do, let's get straight into the test results and see how it fared against its bigger brother. Okay, so first of all, let's look at some of the Cinebench test results. So score is higher, is better. So with the AK620, we got a score of 18323, and the AK400, the little baby brother, slightly up the rear there with 18192. So around about 120 points, give or take. If my math fails me, it probably does. Around about 120 points between the two, which isn't a great deal, to be honest with you. Pretty much bang on. But where it does make a difference is in temperature. So let's take a look at the high and low temperatures whilst running a 10-minute loop of Cinebench R23. So we do have a clear winner, although not by much in the low temperatures. So the AK620 came in with 31.9 degrees Celsius, whereas the AK400 came in with 32.4 degrees Celsius. So we're looking at a 0.5 Celsius difference, so less than a degree. So when it comes to idle temperatures, pretty much there's not a great deal between them. In fairness, the case that I'm using does have particularly good airflow, so that is going to be helpful. And obviously, depending on your ambient temperatures, the ambient temperature here whilst testing was about 24 degrees Celsius, which is kind of normal for where we are. So that's absolutely fine. High temperatures is where things do start to separate and the lead opens up somewhat for the AK620. So we're looking at the highest recorded temperature for the AK620 at 68 degrees Celsius, which actually is a fantastic result. And with the AK400, we hit just over 72 degrees at 72.5 degrees Celsius. So we're looking at 4.5 degrees Celsius, which actually, in terms of CPU coolers, it doesn't sound like a great deal, but it actually is. In terms of, if you look at the charts overall, that is quite a big gap. Now, what it comes down to essentially is going to be price, I think, for most people. Clearly, obviously, your processor choice is going to come into it also. We're using a Ryzen 9 3900X. We do have this on the Asus X570 Tough Gaming motherboard, and Precision Boost is set to auto. Now clearly if we wanted to, we could push that processor a little harder to generate a little bit more temperatures, but in terms of what most people buy these kind of things for, not many people these days are actually that much into overclocking. It is still a very minute portion of the gaming and computing industry. So realistically, what I've actually recorded is what you're likely to see. Now, I would say personally, if you wanted to split these two up, obviously price is going to be one of the main things. Flexibility, if you've got a case which won't fit 160 mils, but it will fit 155, then clearly this is going to be your choice. And again, depending on what these actually launch at retail price-wise and what they end up being as the normal price on your place like Amazon, eBay, etc., that is definitely going to come into it. But realistically, I would say if I was to put them in categories, this is going to be fine for your Intel, your i3s, your i5s. AMD wise, obviously anything from the kind of 4-core, 6-core, 8-core. 12-core is probably where you'd start maybe thinking about going up to its bigger brother, the AK620. The 400 does do a really good job, and again, 72.5 degrees is actually a really good result and actually does compare very well with some of the other twin tower coolers we've reviewed in the past. So it's not as if it's doing bad, but yeah, you might start seeing signs of it struggling somewhat if you're getting up to kind of 12 and 16 core processors and with heavy overclocks. But clearly, I don't think that is what the market this is intended for. Its bigger brother certainly is. So overall, I think this is going to be one of those things where we're going to have to wait, see what the prices settle out to be. The exchange rate on the dollar is going to be the real thing for us here in the UK and obviously in Europe as well. That is going to have a big effect, and obviously transportation costs are going to come into it as well, the way the things are in the world at the moment. But hopefully this is going to turn out to be somewhere in the region. I would love to see it at 25 to 30 pounds. I've got a sneaking suspicion it's going to end up being about 35, possibly even more. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what that comes out to. I will be putting links in the video description below. And obviously, if there are any huge updates or upsets in terms of pricing, then I may actually readjust this video just to kind of put that into some sort of context, or just put a note in the video, so do check that. Obviously, I'm basing it on their estimated retail prices and that alone. So anyway, that has been the AK400. This actually is a really good cooler. I'm very, very pleased with it. It's super easy to install, but I think in terms of actually what they've included in the box, they've kept it to an extreme minimum. And yeah, I think they've done a fantastic job overall. So thanks very much to Deepcool for sending this over for review purposes. Let us know what you think about it in the comment section below. And hopefully you'll be able to pick one up for yourselves and try it in your own PC. So I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.